My girlfriend let her best friend move into my spare room rent-free. I kicked them out after they treated my home like a free hotel and dismissed my boundaries. I, 30M, own a small 2-bedroom place I bought a couple of years ago with help from my father, who taught me how to negotiate a decent mortgage. Though it's no mansion, it's cozy, and I've been proud of turning it into a comfortable home with a spare room I mostly used for storage. When I started dating my girlfriend, things seemed promising. She was charismatic, outgoing, and always had a knack for making any gathering lively. At first, we mostly stayed at her apartment. Then, one day, she half-jokingly mentioned, "You have a bigger place, we should hang out at yours more often." I didn't mind, and soon enough, she started bringing over personal items, clothes, makeup, small decorations. It felt sudden, but I shrugged it off, assuming it was a natural progression of a relationship. I trusted her, and the arrangement seemed fine. We were together for about 10 months when the real drama began. One afternoon, she called, her voice breathy with excitement. "My best friend is in crisis," she said. "She's being forced out of her apartment. Would you mind if she crashed at your place for a bit?" I paused, uncertain. I'd never even met this best friend, only heard some stories, but I wasn't heartless. If someone was genuinely in trouble, letting them stay for a short while could be the right thing to do. "Sure," I said, "but just for a short spell until she finds somewhere else." My girlfriend agreed, telling me I was the sweetest, and I felt a twinge of pride at being helpful. A couple of days later, she and her friend arrived. The friend strolled in with multiple suitcases, boxes, and an air of entitlement that caught me off guard. I expected anxious gratitude, maybe an apology for the inconvenience, but she acted like she owned the place. She mumbled a quick thanks, then tossed her bags into the spare room as if it had always been hers. My girlfriend beamed, proclaiming she was so glad I was saving the day. I tried to stay positive. People handle stress differently, and I gave the friend the benefit of the doubt. For the first few days, I mostly kept to my routine, work at a small local business, meet a buddy for a quick coffee, sometimes come home to watch TV or prepare dinner. My girlfriend was there more frequently, fussing over her friend, trying to cheer her up. Initially, it seemed okay, if a bit awkward, but soon, red flags popped up. One morning, I walked into the kitchen and found the friend rummaging through the fridge, complaining we didn't have the right kind of juice. Later, I overheard her telling my girlfriend how stingy I was for not stocking certain groceries. Odd, I thought, considering she was staying rent-free and hadn't contributed anything. I approached my girlfriend about it. She waved off my concerns. "She's just stressed, don't take it personally." I gritted my teeth and let it slide. Then came the bills. My utility costs spiked with a new occupant. She cranked up the heat during the day, left lights on all night, and took absurdly long showers. I brought it up with my girlfriend, who said, "Relax, it's just a temporary increase. We'll manage." I asked if her friend could chip in a little. She shrugged. "She's broke. That's why she moved in here." No offer to split it with me. No talk of compensation. I started to realize the friend was leeching off my place, and my girlfriend acted like it was perfectly acceptable. Tensions escalated further when the friend started hosting her own visitors, folks I'd never met, hanging out in my living room while I was at work. One evening, I returned to find the TV blasting, empty pizza boxes on the floor, and two strangers lounging around. The friend greeted me casually, as if I were a guest in my own home. My girlfriend chimed in from the sofa, "We're just having a little get-together. Is that a problem?" My blood pressure rose. I forced a tight smile. "I wasn't expecting guests," I said. "I'd appreciate a heads up next time." The friend rolled her eyes. My girlfriend shot me a look that said, "Don't be difficult." I started feeling like my boundaries were being trampled. The spare room was now a cluttered lair of her friend's stuff. The friend rarely left the house and never once offered to do something as simple as cleaning the kitchen or vacuuming. At night, I'd argue with my girlfriend about why we should ask her friend to show some respect, maybe pay a small portion of utilities. My girlfriend always defended her. "She's had a hard time. Have some empathy." We reached a breaking point one night when I found out my girlfriend had quietly decided that the friend would stay indefinitely at no cost. I walked into a tense conversation between them, with the friend saying, "Why should I pay anything if he owns the house? It's not like he is rent." My girlfriend replied, "Don't worry. I'll handle him." I stood there, stunned, realizing I was just an obstacle in their plan. When I confronted them, my girlfriend shot me a look of annoyance. "She's like a sister to me. If you care about me, you'll understand and let her live here for free. It's not a big deal." My head spun. Not a big deal? Two grown adults draining my resources, ignoring my concerns. That was certainly a big deal to me. I tried reasoning. Look, the bills have doubled. The grocery costs are rising because your friend eats and never contributes. It's not fair for me to shoulder this alone. The friend cut in. You can afford it. Stop being stingy. The arrogance in her voice made me speechless. I turned to my girlfriend, hoping for support, but she shrugged. You're making a mountain out of a molehill. Inside, I felt something snap. I realized that my girlfriend not only condoned her friend's behavior but was encouraging it. I decided I wasn't going to stand for it any longer. The tension in the house became suffocating. I'd leave for work dreading what new expenses or messes I'd find upon returning. My attempts to compromise went nowhere. Every time I brought up the idea of splitting bills or setting a timeline for the friend to move out, my girlfriend accused me of being heartless. The friend would chime in, claiming she was down on her luck and that a real partner would support my girlfriend's wish to help her. Their entitlement was astonishing. One Saturday morning, I discovered the friend had invited more people over, this time staying overnight without my knowledge. I walked into the kitchen to find a couple of strangers milling around, making coffee, rummaging through the cabinets. When they saw me, they had the nerve to say, "Hey, you got any cream?" My frustration boiled over. This was my house. I politely but firmly asked them to leave. They left, grumbling about my attitude. My girlfriend appeared mid-scene, demanding, "Why are you so rude to my friends?" I fired back, "I'm sick of uninvited guests treating my home like a motel. Either you respect my boundaries, or you and your friend can find somewhere else to stay." She stomped away, yelling that I was overreacting and that if I truly loved her, I'd be more generous. I felt no guilt for asserting myself. They were exploiting my good nature, and I was done. The following week was the last straw. I almost choked on the totals when I received my monthly utility bills for internet, water, and electricity. My water bill had increased dramatically, my power usage had tripled, and my groceries were going missing at startling rates. The friend, however, continued to refuse to provide even a single dime. I summoned my girlfriend and her friend to the living room with the bills in hand. I calmly stated, "We need to address this now. The costs have become unmanageable, and it's not okay that you two expect me to cover everything." The friend made a face and looked at her phone, as if I were boring her. My girlfriend said, "You're just trying to guilt trip us. We never asked you to pay more, you just offered." That statement nearly made me lose it. "I never offered to pay for 2 extra people indefinitely. You both are taking advantage." The friend sneered. "Then maybe you shouldn't have a house if you can't afford it. You're acting broke." My jaw dropped at the sheer nerve. Then my girlfriend dropped a bombshell. "Actually, I think it's only fair you pay all the bills. You have the mortgage, you make more money than either of us, and you said you wanted to take care of me. This is part of it?" I stared, shocked. "When did I say I wanted to be your personal ATM? I'm happy to support a partner in reasonable ways, but this is pure freeloading." She crossed her arms, refusing to see reason. I realized at that moment that her perspective was deeply warped. Our relationship had been overshadowed by her friend's influence and maybe my girlfriend's own sense of entitlement. Fueled by anger, I told them, "Enough. Either she starts paying rent, or both of you need to go." The friend burst into laughter, as if my ultimatum was a joke. My girlfriend looked furious. "You can't just kick us out. We're practically a family and she's not paying you a dime." The arrogance was staggering. "Watch me," I replied. I performed some research that evening. Without a roommate agreement, joint lease, or other formal framework, I am the sole owner of the property and it is registered in my name. Until marriage was discussed, my father had always advised me to maintain my name as the sole proprietor. I was now appreciative of that counsel. However, since it might be difficult to evict someone in the United States if they gain residency, I wanted to make sure I followed the correct procedure. But in my state, if someone's not on the lease and hasn't paid rent, they're essentially a guest. You can ask them to leave. If they refuse, you can proceed legally. I confronted my girlfriend the next day, explaining that if her friend didn't leave within a week, I'd have to serve a formal notice. She rolled her eyes. "You're not serious." I showed her the document I had downloaded, a simple notice to vacate. She scoffed. "You're out of control. I'll talk to my friend." She left the house in a huff. Days passed, and nothing changed. The friend continued lazing around, even bragging to one of her pals on the phone that she was living rent-free with no deadlines. My girlfriend shot me hostile looks whenever I walked by. Tired of waiting, I handed the friend a printed notice. She crumpled it up and tossed it in the trash, smirking. "You can't force me out. My best friend has more say here than you think. I locked myself in my bedroom, fuming. This was next-level arrogance. They were openly challenging my right to my own home. My father recommended I keep a record of all communications, just in case, so I started taking notes about every confrontation, every time I asked them to leave and their response. Meanwhile, the tension was relentless. I'd go to the kitchen for a snack, only to find the friend sprawled on the couch, hogging the TV, leaving food wrappers everywhere. My girlfriend was no better, echoing her friend's mockery. "Oh, look, the landlord is here. Watch out." They both chuckled like bullies in a playground. One evening, I got home late from work. The living room lights were on, the AC was blasting, and the place was trashed with takeout containers. They'd even rummaged through my fridge, finishing off items I'd been saving for my next day's lunch. I snapped. "Pack your things, both of you, I'm done." My girlfriend smirked. "You can't just end our relationship over this. You'll regret it." The friend added, "Go ahead, try. We'll leave when we feel like it." I took a shaky breath, resolved to follow through. That was the night I decided the relationship was over, and they were both leaving, willingly or not. I made several crucial phone calls the following day. I first sought legal advice from a local lawyer to make sure I was within my rights. They told me that I had every right to ask my girlfriend's friend to leave because she was never under a lease, never paid rent, and there was no official arrangement in place. My partner wasn't included on the property documents either. The lawyer advised me to set a strict deadline for them. I could then call the police if they continued to refuse. With that confirmation, I returned home feeling more confident. I found them in the living room again, gossiping loudly. I calmly placed 2 letters on the coffee table, each stating they had 3 days to vacate the premises. My girlfriend snapped. "Are you kidding me? You're delivering official letters to me?" I nodded. "Yes, because it's clear talking to you hasn't worked. Our relationship is over, and you both need to move out. This is your final notice." She stood furious. "Yeah. I can't believe you're throwing everything away over a few bills. You always said you loved me." I stared back. "I did love you. But you and your friend have shown me zero respect. This isn't just about bills. It's about your entitlement, lying to me, and disregarding my boundaries." The friend chimed in. "We're not going anywhere. I dare you to call the cops." She laughed as if it were a hilarious bluff. I sighed, fed up with her mockery. "I'm done arguing. You have till the deadline. After that, I will call the police if necessary." I retreated to my bedroom to avoid a shouting match. Through the door, I heard them rant about how heartless I was. They made phone calls, presumably telling their friends some twisted version of events because soon my phone buzzed with a couple of angry messages from mutual acquaintances, scolding me for kicking out a helpless friend. I ignored them, focusing on the bigger picture. The following days were tense. My girlfriend and her friend stomped around, slamming doors, leaving trash everywhere. It was like they were actively punishing me for daring to stand my ground. I documented it all. I snapped photos of the mess, kept a record of the times I asked them to clean up and they refused. I wanted proof of their disrespectful behavior in case any legal dispute arose. On the last day of the notice period, I came home earlier than usual, bracing myself for a fight. Instead, I was greeted by a weird silence. The living room was empty, but the friend's belongings were still scattered around. My girlfriend was nowhere in sight. Cautiously, I checked the rooms. Nothing. Then I spotted a note on the kitchen counter. "We'll leave when we're ready. Don't even think about changing the locks." That note solidified my next step. The deadline had passed, and they still refused to leave, so I called the non-emergency police line to explain the situation, that I had previously allowed them as guests, but now they were effectively trespassing since the notice had expired. The officer on the phone advised me to remain calm, gather any relevant documents, and wait for them to arrive. I gave them an explanation and showed them the notice letters and the property deed in my name when the 2 cops arrived. After taking note of my paperwork, the cops knocked on the door of the spare room. My girlfriend and her friend were inside. They appeared surprised to see the police when they opened the door. Calmly, one officer told them that they were now trespassing and that they had to leave or risk legal repercussions. My girlfriend started to object, saying I was a violent landlord. The friend attempted to assert that they had a verbal agreement, but the officer interrupted, pointing out that our state's law requires a guest who has been ordered to vacate by a homeowner to comply. Realizing they couldn't talk their way out of it, my girlfriend started sobbing, calling me names, insisting I was ruining her life. The friend gave me a hateful glare. "You'll regret this," she threatened. But they had no choice. Under the officer's supervision, they started packing. It took about an hour of heated muttering, slamming drawers, and stuffing clothes into bags. The friend, in a petty move, tried to take some of my kitchenware, but I pointed it out, and the officer made her put it back. As they finally dragged their stuff toward the front door, my girlfriend paused, eyes filled with anger. "You'll never find someone who treats you better than I did," she spat. I almost laughed at the irony. I didn't respond. I just wanted them gone. Once they left, escorted by the officers, I locked the door behind them. The house felt emptier but also, for the first time in weeks, peaceful. I waited until I heard their car drive off. Then I made a beeline to a hardware store, picking up a new set of locks and deadbolts. I wasn't taking any chances with them having made spare keys behind my back. I spent the evening changing everything. The sense of relief that washed over me was indescribable. The next morning, I woke up to a series of angry texts from my girlfriend's relatives, claiming I'd kicked her friend onto the street. I ignored them all, deciding I didn't owe them any explanation. My father called, checking if I was all right. I explained what happened, and he sighed, reminding me, "Sometimes you learn the hard way about people's true colors." He told me to let go of any guilt and be glad I stood up for myself before things got worse. Over the next week, I noticed a flurry of social media posts from the friend, painting me as a villain who exploited them. She claimed I'd made them do house chores, which was laughable since she rarely lifted a finger, and that I violated their rights by forcing them out. A couple of mutual acquaintances reached out, asking for my side of the story. I told them the basics. That she freeloaded, disrespected my house, and refused to leave. Most people understood. Some stuck to my ex-girlfriend's side, but I figured if they were gullible enough to believe her twisted narrative, I didn't need them in my life anyway. For a short time, I feared retaliation. The friend seemed vindictive enough to cause trouble, but aside from dramatic online rants, nothing tangible happened. The locks were changed, and I updated my security system just to be safe. I also informed my neighbors that if they saw my ex-girlfriend or her friend lurking around, they should call me. Everyone was supportive. In the days that followed, I cleaned and reorganized the entire house, getting rid of the negativity they had brought. The spare room felt almost alien without the friend's possessions cluttering it. I rearranged furniture, scrubbed the walls, and opened the windows wide to let in fresh air. It was like a physical reset, a way to reclaim my space and my peace of mind. Reflecting on everything, I realized the relationship had been imbalanced for quite some time. Maybe I ignored the early signs, the demands, the small manipulations, the controlling comments. My girlfriend's best friend was just the catalyst that exposed the deeper problems. In a way, I was grateful it happened sooner rather than later. Had I continued, who knows what bigger issues would have surfaced? When people ask if I regret anything, my answer is no. The situation was awful but taught me a vital lesson about standing my ground. I learned that kindness has limits and not everyone deserves endless chances at my expense. Allowing someone to live rent-free might be kind in theory, but when they show no respect or gratitude, it quickly becomes a nightmare. Life feels calmer now. I'm focusing on myself, enjoying my newly reclaimed space, catching up with friends, indulging in simple joys like cooking for just me or inviting over a couple of close pals without stress. Sure, the house can feel lonely at times, but loneliness is better than constant drama. It's liberating to know I'm not tiptoeing around toxic people anymore. As for my ex-girlfriend, I haven't spoken to her since that day. Occasionally, a text will sneak through from an unknown number, presumably hers or her friend's, full of insults or attempts at guilt-tripping. I block them immediately. Part of me hopes she learned something from this, but I won't hold my breath. Did I make the right call ending the relationship, kicking them out, and changing the locks? Absolutely. And if anyone out there finds themselves in a similar predicament, take it from me. You're under no obligation to house a freeloader or put up with manipulative behavior. Your home is your sanctuary. If a partner and their friend treat your place like a free hotel, it's time to draw the line. I did, and although it was painful and messy, it was also the best decision I've made in a long time.